Questions of Doom.
Hello and welcome back to another Questions of Doom. In this series, as ever, I attempt to answer questions that you send my way using the archaeosoup@gmail.com email address, as displayed on the YouTube channel homepage, but as you'll also find at the end of this video. In answering these questions by video, it is my fond hope that the answer is not only useful to the person who has asked the question, but also anyone else out there who may be wondering the same thing. Now, today's question is a fairly recent one, and even though, yes, there is a bit of a backlog of QODs at the moment, this one jumped to the head of the queue because it seems to be fairly urgent, but also related to last week's topic, and that is whether or not one should stick at studying archaeology if one doesn't want to. Well, in this instance, it's actually a young person who's wondering whether or not archaeology is a soon-to-be done and dusted subject, and so I thought it was quite interesting, and it's almost like a counterpoint, I suppose, to last week's question of doom. It goes like this: Hello, smiley face. My name is Jane Fish. I am in grade 11. I go to high school in Canada. I recently came across your YouTube channel and I am in love with archaeology, I presume. I have been interested in going into archaeology for a while now, and in the beginning I was incredibly motivated. For the past few months I've discussed the career path with my guardians and teachers, and I haven't been getting positive feedback. Some of them say there is nothing left in archaeology, that everything is dug up. Now, I know that this can't be entirely true. There is much out there to discover, discoveries that I want to make. However, I don't have much of an opinion on the matter. Is it true, after all? If I were to pursue being an archaeologist, would I regret it? Also, I noticed that most archaeologists end up working in museums. I do enjoy museums, but I cannot picture myself working in one. I am simply confused and torn. I was just curious as to what you recommend. Advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Well, Jane, thank you very much for asking the question. I'm glad you like the YouTube channel, and crucially, thank you for feeling that you could ask this question. Just as with the questioner last week, again, I would commend your bravery in putting this question out there and seeking advice from people outside your circle, as it were. So, well done. I'm very impressed at your tender years at reaching out and trying to get some comprehensive answers to questions. Well, first of all, I've already actually responded to you, Jane, in an email when I couldn't do this video last week. I let you see a link to a video that I did a while ago, which was exploring something about this topic, actually, whether or not there was anything left to dig up. The link to that video, for those of you who want to watch it, is just above my shoulder right now. And in that video, I recount, amongst other things, a story where I remember distinctly feeling the same thing. I was in my first year of archaeology and I was thinking, oh man, everything's been found, there's nothing out there. And the very next day, in Russia's Paleolithic specialist, actually a Neanderthal specialist archaeologist, and he's very excited in the lecture hall. And it's because they've just discovered a whole new species of human being, the Homo floresiensis, or the so-called hobbits, on the Isle of Flores. And I thought, well, actually, no, clearly there is stuff to discover. We just don't know what it is because it, hasn't been found yet. Now, if you take a casual, even the most casual of scrolls through the Archaeosoup Facebook page, for example, you can see that every single day there are new news stories out there. There are new discoveries being made, and new ways of discussing the past are being broached and being approached by archaeologists and also people in other fields. Indeed, archaeology is increasingly reaching out to a plethora of fields: neuroscientists, biologists, engineers. Anthropology is having a reflexive effect on archaeology and vice versa. And in that sense, archaeology is continually growing and moving in its ability to discuss and find new ways to discuss the past. So other perspectives are always being sought. So in that sense, archaeology actually isn't done and dusted. Everything hasn't been found, or everything hasn't been discovered, rather. Even if, let's just imagine, even if somehow everything had been dug out of the ground, there's always going to be new research which is possible on these artifacts, on these objects, and about these cultures. Always new ways of looking at the past which are valid and which add to our understanding of the past and therefore the present in some way, in terms of who we are, how we came to be here. It all reminds me of, there's a myth that in the early 20th century, a guy working in the US Patent Office sent a letter to his superiors saying, we need to shut down the patent office, there's nothing else to be invented, there'll be no more patents made, everything has been invented, there's nothing else, so we might as well just shut this office down and save the government some money. Now, obviously, that's not the case. Things like the internet yet to be invented. That's just for one thing, and any number of other technologies and life-changing finds and discoveries. So people have. This is nothing new. I mean, and that is a myth. Didn't actually happen. But this is nothing new. This idea that somehow everything's been found. There's nothing else to find. A really high-profile example, actually, would be King Richard III. He was recently, last September, uncovered in a car park in Leicester. You couldn't get much more high-profile or sort of, I suppose, traditional finding, archaeology findingness happening, and that happened just last year. So it's all continuing, and it will continue for quite a while. Also, archaeology is not just about finding things, gathering treasures and objects. It is not just about categorizing and cataloguing the past in that sense through material objects. It's also about discussion and new insights. And I keep on touching on this, but a really great example of this is J.D. Hill's study of rubbish in the Iron Age in Britain. He wrote a wonderful thesis, Ritual and Rubbish, in the Iron Age, and he took literally rubbish deposits in Iron Age hill forts, analysed them, and actually found that these weren't just rubbish deposits. These were structured, layered cultural artifacts, moments in time buried in the ground, which actually had a ritual significance. And out of that came a whole new understanding, a whole new lens through which to view these sites, and that's just because this guy came along and asked questions. Even though the finds had been made, the archaeology in many cases had been done. Of course, he did some digging to confirm in fresh finds some of his suppositions, and certainly has done since. But nonetheless, that all came from data, and it came from analysis of data. It didn't necessarily come from having to be out there digging. Now, yes, you are quite right, and I don't want to be biased in my presentation here. You are quite right. Many archaeologists don't end up doing archaeology in the field for their career. I don't dig as often as I would like to. I'm hoping to go digging this summer again, which would be great. And many archaeologists, for example, I've been working with a local museum recently. Everyone in the museum staff there started as an archaeologist. They all did archaeology at university. But many people actually grew tired of the digging experience. They wanted to settle down to museum work. So you may well actually find yourself wanting to do that. But there is also another downside, and that is that archaeology isn't the best paid career path in the world. So as much as I would say, yes, of course, go and look at archaeology, study archaeology, there is an element here, and that is that you need to make sure that you're passionate about it, because sometimes archaeology will really be a labour of love. And you can't go in there or into this career expecting to make a huge amount of money, because that's not going to happen. But if you care about it enough, you will find a way. You will find ways of feeding your passion and making it work. So I can see why you're confused. I can certainly understand being a bit torn on this, and especially when the people you respect are saying everything's been found. It's all been done. Archaeology, But that's a false argument. That is demonstrably not the case. Every day new finds are being made, and every day, crucially, new perspectives are being formed on old finds. So archaeology and archaeologists will continue. And frankly, actually, if you look at the way archaeology is formed, for example, the neighbourhood where I live, it's rife with 20th century and Victorian urban archaeology which hasn't been properly recorded. So this stuff will be lost at some point, and then it'll be redug up. So archaeology is still being formed. It's not like we just stopped moving and society has stopped and now we know everything, and everything in our modern day society will be recorded forever ad hoc. And this sort of on the fly recording will just maintain in a digital space. Information's always being lost, and actually what I'll do is I'll put a link to another video, in fact I'll put it above my shoulder, exploring the future of archaeology. So that's not a true, that's a bit of a false argument. But I would say that you can't just go into archaeology lightly. You need to be aware that it doesn't pay extremely well, it does require passion, and it probably will require the support of your support structure, your guardians, your teachers, your friends, and your family. So I'd say definitely revisit the idea of archaeology, discuss it with your guardians and teachers. But if you want, show them this video. But also, don't go into it blind. Definitely do ask more questions. Talk to people who work in museums. Ask them how they got into that job. Talk to some other archaeologists as well. Try and build up a picture and then make a decision from there. So really, that's what I would say, Jane. Thank you so much for asking the question, and as I say, for trusting me with this question and my ability, hopefully, to answer your question in a somewhat balanced manner. I hope that you go on to study something which fulfills you, and if that's archaeology, or if that's a career which is linked with archaeology, it could be heritage landscape management. It could be, becoming someone who is linked with the recording or care of artifacts. Who knows? If that leads on to something, all the better. But certainly do take the time to consider it. And it sounds like actually you're in a great position. You're in grade 11, and you're thinking about these things already. So well done. I know I wasn't thinking about these things when I was in grade 11. So I'm in that respect, I'm very impressed. So there you go. Once again, thanks for asking the question, and now I'll open up this video to everyone else to comment on. If there's anyone out there who has a particular opinion or thoughts following this question, this answer, please do comment below, and any suggestions which may well help Jane, either in the for or against columns in terms of becoming an archaeologist, please do make them known, write them below, and hopefully this will be a useful discussion tool, if nothing else, for Jane and her support group, as it were, and the people who are trying to advise her. So once again, thank you so much, Jane, for asking the question, and there you go. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye bye.